So we're live. So Mikhail, I thank you so much for joining me. I have so many questions. Where to begin? I mean, should we kick off with what happened today? What did what is your takeaway of what happened in the White House today? Was it good for Zelensky, bad, or in the middle?
I might be a bit harsh, but I actually see no results and no meaning for these for summits like this. It seems like the photo opportunity for so many world leaders, and they gather, they sit in the same room, they make brilliant selfies, amazing photos, but like, are there any real decisions? Uh, are there any real results? We haven't heard anything that would be new. There is no plan for any kind of deal. There is no plan for what could happen to between Putin and Zelensky. There is no plan for meeting between Putin and Zelensky, and it's clear, more or less, that Putin won't have that meeting. He does not agree to have a meeting with Zelensky. He doesn't want that peace, but everyone is pretending that something is happening. All those European leaders pretend that they're happy.
So let me push back from an ignorant layperson's point of view. It did seem as though the idea that Article 5 of NATO would be invoked, it did seem that this idea of security guarantees for Ukraine is something that, Trump is clearly on board with, and, and saying that the US would be there to support a European security guarantee of Ukraine. I mean, is that not one step forward?
Security guarantee if Russia invades Ukraine?
Right.
Russia started the invasion of Ukraine more than 3 years ago. The war is going on every day. So there is a war, and obviously there are no security guarantees for Ukraine right now. There is the conversation about potential security guarantees if Russia agrees for a ceasefire, if Russia makes a deal. But Russia is not going to have a deal. We probably we could discuss I think the much more interesting conversation was the meeting in Alaska between Putin and Trump, and we really didn't see any results. Putin did not promise anything to Donald Trump. And I think it's worthy to discuss what we know about that meeting, because from what I hear from Moscow, everyone is super satisfied because Putin managed not to agree for any compromise. He managed not to give any concessions to Trump. He was talking about his favorite topics. The first one was bilateral cooperation. He was talking about economic ties. He was talking about probably we heard different information about possibility of ExxonMobil working in oil fields in Russia. He was talking about history, as even during his speech. So he probably lectured Donald Trump about history during their meeting. Then he lectured journalists on history. On history, Russia and America in Alaska, and Russia and America cooperating during World War II, and that's it. He clearly doesn't see the perspective of the negotiations with Zelensky. He made no promises about the end of the war or the ceasefire or any kind of peace deal.
Right, but again, so pushing back though, Trump won't have given him the guarantee of an economic deal of any sort unless peace is reached. I mean, America's not going to get into some economic agreement with Russia. I mean, so so my takeaway is not as negative as yours, and so tell me why I'm wrong, because my takeaway from the last few days is that at least there is the appearance of Trump actually being a middleman. If and Zelensky has clearly said today, I want you there when if we can have a meeting with Putin, it's not going to be a bilateral, it's got to be a trilateral. And so it seems to me that at least is one step forward from where we were. And then it would seem to me that the meeting today, the fact that all the European leaders came with Zelensky, that it appeared to go so well, that there was clearly this map that was produced that Zelensky talked about. I mean, it would seem to me that Zelensky has looked at the map, and Zelensky is prepared to do some sort of deal if he talked about the conditions being right, the getting his men back, and the security guarantee is what he's most concerned about. So that would seem to me, and then Trump getting on the phone with Putin. So I naively, you're going to tell me perhaps, thought this actually, I have to say, maybe I'm the sucker here, I thought it made Trump look good.
I truly believe that Donald Trump is sincere in his attempts to bring this war to an end. And yes, he's got a lot of different reasons to want to stop this war. So I do think that he is not cynical but sincere, or both. So he really tries. He tries hard. But at the same time, my major conclusion from the summit in Alaska, that was a major breakthrough for Putin. That was a major win for Putin. Because before
Why?
that, he is legitimized as not as an outcast, not as a pariah. He is the internationally recognized leader of Russia, legitimate leader of Russia, who can visit United States, who can have negotiations with American leaders, and that's the most if we look from the inside of Russia, it's really interesting that before his journey to Alaska, he had a huge meeting, and it was very public, of all Russian political elite, all members of Russian government, all members of Kremlin administration, and that was some kind of a lecture. Last time we saw that format, that happened right before the invasion of Ukraine. So he gathered all of them and he prepared them to his visit to Alaska. And after that, he had the second same meeting. And it was mandatory for all Russian ministers. For example, the head of Russian Central Bank, Elvira Nabiullina, she was on vacation and she was brought to Kremlin just because everyone had to attend it. And actually, he again was he was showing them that he is the only one who can be a guarantor that Russia is not isolated. He can start the war, but even after that, he continues talking to American leaders. He continues being the only respected face and the only respected manager. So this war for him is the war for Russia. He needs to stay in power in Russia. He needs to control the elites. He needs to control the business elite, the political elite, the military. And it's clear that he is becoming even more and more influential, even more it's becoming more and more one-man show, and he won that negotiations with Trump. He managed not to promise anything. Uh, he imposed his agenda. It's interesting that um, Donald Trump this time was trying to save the face, but it's important that the negotiations that were expected to last much longer uh, were cut short. Russian.
What did you make of the fact? And so, what did you make of the fact actually that they didn't end up meeting one on one, other than obviously than that car ride in the Beast when they both got into the presidential limousine? I mean, I think we all wondered what they talked about in the Beast. But given, I mean, how I've asked you this before. Putin's English is middle, not even.
We heard one phrase from
Yes,
him. Maybe next time in Moscow. I think that's his level. So he can say maybe next time in Moscow with
right.
huge Russian, hard
But
Russian accent. But that's it. I don't believe that his English is great.
right.
Um,
But
I
good
think
enough. But good enough for him and Trump to have had a meaningful conversation in the back of that car.
I think he was trying what he learned when he was preparing how to flatter Trump. And we heard that during their it was not a press conference, during their communication with journalists, he managed to start his speech with wishing Trump's longevity and expressing his happiness that Trump was not assassinated, and then he blamed Joe Biden for the
Mm.
war. So, and obviously, if he does that publicly during their one-on-one communication, he was trying to flatter Donald Trump and to repeat once again that Biden was to blame for everything. It was Biden's war, and you are the only one capable to end it. So yeah, he can do that. He loves telling people everything they want to hear. And if Donald, and obviously I'm sure I haven't heard that. That's my hypothesis, but I'm sure he told Trump that he thinks Trump deserves the Nobel Prize. He knows,
Right.
the whole world knows that President
Yeah.
Trump wants Nobel Peace Prize, and definitely that Putin mentioned that his English is enough. But
Right.
I think what was more important, I'm sorry, what was more important
Yeah.
that, for example, Russian Minister of Finances came to Alaska in vain, as well as Secretary of Commerce. They didn't have the meeting, so probably there was a plan for more profound meeting and for discussion between those Secretary of Commerce and Russian Minister of Finance, and it didn't happen. So obviously, for Donald Trump, it was clear that Putin was not ready to discuss the peace. He was trying to discuss the bilateral cooperation, and he is not ready to think of possibility of uh, yeah, he delivered his list of Russian preconditions, and actually the map that we saw today in the Oval Office more or less describes uh, the appetites of Putin. He wants a lot of territories. He wants much more territories than are currently occupied by Russian troops. And so, yeah, the list.
He wants, wait, hang on. So just to go, he wants, just so we're clear on this, he wants the Donbass and obviously Crimea, right? What else does he want?
Um, Currently, Russia occupies parts of 4 Ukrainian regions, excluding Crimea. Crimea
Yeah.
is fully controlled by Russia, but other 4 regions, which are Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson, are partly occupied by Russians. Um, And obviously, he wants to control all the territories of those, all the territories of these regions within the borders. So he wants Ukrainians to give the territory just for nothing, which is impossible. And he offers much more conditions. For example, the status of Russian language. For example, the special status for Russian Orthodox Church. What is usually called denazification by Russian propaganda. He really wants some more instruments to control Ukrainian society and Ukrainian political system. And he wants neutral status for Ukraine, so he wants to make sure that Ukraine is not able to join NATO or any other alliance. So it still stays. So if we compare Putin's position today to Putin's position 3.5 years ago, when they were right after the beginning of the invasion, there were negotiations in Istanbul. He didn't change his position. It's still the same because he knows that it's enough to prevent these negotiations from success.
Well, okay. So, and let me just ask you one question before I get on to what happened today. So why do you think, though, there was that scramble, that 11th hour where Putin and Trump were going to meet one-on-one, and then it changed? Trump brought in Steve Witkoff and Marco Rubio, and Putin he did have people in that meeting. So what was that about, in your view?
He really wants to make these negotiations longer. He doesn't have any substance. He cannot offer. He doesn't have he cannot offer anything. He doesn't have a peace plan. He needs to extend all those communications. He can pretend that he is interested in those talks, but in reality, he knows that it's not about Ukraine. It's not about the peace. He cannot accept the peace. That's not his plan. He doesn't see. I think today when he was watching the videos from the White House, he might have been very joyful because I discussed it with several sources in Moscow. It doesn't look scary. It seems like nothing has happened. They didn't promise anything. They continue saying that we won't do anything, but in 2 weeks something will happen. But we are not going to put pressure on Russia. We don't have. We won't do.
Well,
Everyone is waiting for the miracle. No, this miracle won't happen.
Well, okay. So why is my read of it slightly different? So my read of it is that there was powerful symbolism in the fact that all the European leaders scrambled to come with Zelensky, and that they made it very clear that even if Ukraine didn't join NATO, that effectively they were going to come to the defense of NATO, and so was America. And, Trump has said, right, that if something doesn't move in these talks, that, the Americans are going to sell weapons to the Europeans, who will in turn use those in the war. So it's not like there's no leverage here. There is, Zelensky, to me, it seems like he's got a much stronger hand now than he did, the last time when we first spoke about this and that disastrous meeting with JD Vance. So,
yes,
and I thought the fact that Zelensky was clearly looking, maybe they will give Putin, that they are talking clearly about some of the geographic land grabs that he wants to make. And, to me, I heard that Zelensky might meet him somewhere on that if he gets his men back and if he gets his security guaranteed. But so tell me why I'm wrong.
If we compare what happened today to that disastrous meeting when Zelensky said, "When the war is over, I'll come here wearing a costume," um, that was a disaster. That was catastrophe, and he was on the verge of the end of his political career. And by the way, we discussed it that that was a slip of tongue. Costume is suit in Russian, so he was he was going to say that next time when the war is over, I'm going to come here wearing a suit. And we saw him today wearing a suit. So he learns his lessons. So this meeting today is obviously so much better for him and for Ukraine. For Ukraine, I don't even know, because they promised to him something that they have already given to him, or they have already promised to him the war they did not promise, and they don't have the possibility to stop the war. They are not discussing, and the war goes on. Ukraine, the strength of Ukraine is that Ukraine managed to start producing its own weapons, specifically drones, and Ukraine has become more has got more trained army and some new unique technology. So Ukraine is capable to continue the war. Ukrainian society does not. Ukrainian society is not ready to accept that kind of land trade deal. That is, it's not
Right.
popular at all, and it's going to be really risky for Zelensky to start that conversation. But that's not everything Putin wants. Putin wants much more, because as we discussed it, I know from all of my sources in Moscow that Putin's objective is not the peace. He is going to throw another arguments one after another, demanding new conditions. And at one point, these negotiations will be doomed to fail, and that's a program. Everyone seems to know that. I'm sure Chancellor Merz knows that, and I'm sure for sure Zelensky knows that. Last time when he was in the Oval Office, he was saying that aloud, that he does not believe Putin, that Putin does not want peace, and he doesn't want ceasefire. He continued repeating that. Now he
But that's
sees now.
not what he said today, right?
Yes, he knows that this kind of rhetoric is not popular. This kind of rhetoric does not impress President Trump. So now he just started saying what Trump's want him to say, and all of them pretend that they are on the same page, but actually they are not. Most European leaders are far much more skeptical of Vladimir Putin than President Trump is, but they pretend that it's okay, and they are approaching some kind of breakthrough peace deal, but it's not true. And I'm afraid that they are playing some kind of a game which leaves a very bad impression for me, because uh, it diminishes the role of all European leaders. It's Europe seemed to be. European values, European political culture used to be very different, or at least there was an illusion that they have some political traditions. Now they are just as if they came to make photo with Zelensky and President Trump, and to create that image of the unity. There is no unity, because these negotiations with Trump, with President Putin, are doomed. And most people in the Oval Office today knew that, but they pretended, they preferred not to say that aloud.
Well, okay, let's say you're right on that. Wasn't the bigger point of it, that they were showing they stood with Zelensky. That and that was meaningful. I
It's
mean,
always a good news. Yeah, yeah.
that I think was meaningful. I mean, you had all the fanfare and the performative aspect of the meeting. The red carpet rolled out in Alaska for Putin, and the whole thing was staged. Obviously, I mean, Trump's really, really good at that, and one has to assume. I think you and I have talked about this, that so is Putin, and so I think that the visuals of what happened today were equally impressive in a way they would not have been if the European leaders had not flown in to stand with Zelensky. I mean, that, to me, that was the point of it. Whether they really think they're getting anywhere or not, okay, you might be right. Who knows? But
I think I think
it was an impressive show. No.
Yes, yeah, I think it was a show. I agree completely that it was a very nice show, and it was a show organized by President Trump because he needed that show, and he had two shows in a row. And if we imagine that his real goal is Nobel Peace Prize, he needed those two shows. Because first he met
Yeah.
Vladimir Putin, then he, as a leader of the free world, had all the major European leaders and President Zelensky in his Oval Office. It was his triumph. It was his show, and everything played according to his rules. That was an amazing achievement. So, but my concern is that the show itself is the goal. There
Hmm.
is nothing further than that.
So,
I think it's not like this show. I love this show much more than the previous one.
yes. Okay.
The JD Vance Zelensky show was almost a tragedy.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm really scared of what October can bring, because October is the moment when Norwegian Parliament should vote for the Nobel Peace Prize, and probably that's going to be the turning point of the global politics. If Trump gets it, or if Trump doesn't, we will find ourselves in two completely different worlds. And what's going to happen to him? If he's going to be satisfied and he will lose any interest in international policy, or on the contrary, he's going to be so. But like, I think that we are in a way very dependent on that track. We are very dependent, like the
So
whole
wait. So
world,
so okay, so you
the whole
think
world.
if he doesn't get it, so play that out for me. Your hypothesis is if he gets it, then he stops caring about the peace process. Is that your hypothesis? And if he doesn't get it, it would be good because he
Even
would keep.
worse, I think. No. I
Oh,
think if he doesn't get it, even worse.
right.
He would curse them. He would sanction Norway. He would establish his own peace prize. So yeah, I'm scared either way. But
And
I
it's and so
but I hope that probably there is another scenario. We are talking about, as we live in the world, in reality of show business. There are some different rules, and it's not the political game; it's a show business game.
so go back to what you said about the fact that Ukraine has been able to make its own weapons. I mean, let's agree that your scary, dark, view of how this is going to play out, is right, and this war just rolls on. I mean, Russia right now is making inroads right into Ukraine. I mean, it- you know, do the Ukrainians have a hope of turning the situation around in the long term?
Uh, you know, I think I'm not a military expert, but I think from what I see, Ukraine can manage to endure for many more months, because number of Ukrainian attacks on Russian territory, the number of attacks of Ukrainian drones anywhere in Russia has increased dramatically. And it's clear that Ukrainian, the capability of Ukrainian army, it's impressive. Yeah, American arms, European assistance, it all matters. Persistence of Ukrainian people, that's important. At the same time, this summer in some European resorts, I've heard about it, and I've seen some pictures. I've seen some evidence myself. The number of Rolls Royces with Ukrainian plates, not ordinary Ukrainian plates, but military Ukrainian plates, is disturbing. It's clear that some people in Ukraine are making money out of this war. Even some people in Ukrainian army are making money out of this war, and it's becoming visible in Europe, in Côte d'Azur, for example. So it seems like that it's clear that Russian elite and President Putin, they are not ready to stop this war because they don't want it. But sometimes we see real evidence that Ukrainian elite is willing to continue this war. I'm not suspecting President Zelensky. He's above that. He's got his completely different objectives. But some people in Ukrainian elite are benefiting from this war as well.
So how does this end?
Where is the end? I don't know what could be. Probably I think the important deadline is first. We heard about important deadline 2 weeks, because something should happen or should not. We must wait if there is going to be any kind of breakthrough with trilateral meeting with Trump, Zelensky, and Putin. I don't think that trilateral meeting is possible. As well as I don't believe that Putin wants Donald Trump to come to Moscow. I think that's not possible as well. So I don't believe that. I think that new meetings and new negotiation would go on, but I don't believe in a breakthrough, because we have seen no hint from any participant, especially from Russia, that this is possible. They continue doing this, the same, everything what Russian propaganda says, everything what Russian elite says, everything what President Putin says. It's all the same. Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov came to Alaska wearing a sweatshirt with USSR, which was a statement itself. Normally, he's much more formally dressed. And this time he was super casual, and he had letters USSR written. And Putin.
So what did that say to you? What did that say to you?
He was in a mocking mood. He was trying to show that it's a show, and as Soviet Union, you thought that we are defeated. No, we are back. We are back on Americans on historically Russian soil, which is right now American, and we are going to claim it. Nothing is over. The Cold War is not over. USSR is back. Russian foreign minister wearing that. That's not a joke. And Putin jokingly, after seeing that, said, "Oh, you're such an imperialist," which is they are that. It's not a coincidence. It's the way how they feel. They feel that they are prevailing. They feel that it's great. Their agenda, they are keep going their own way, and there is no threat for them, for Putin and his um, and his inner
Well,
circle
the
and
threat
his
would
bureaucrats.
be the threat would be if Trump were to turn on them in a meaningful way with money and with arms.
They don't believe in that sanctions could work because after all, sanctions against Russia, enormous sanctions against Russia, we know were implemented 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it seems like they are not really working.
I
And
mean,
probably Russian elite knows much more about how these sanctions are not working than we know. And definitely they don't believe in secondary sanctions because they don't believe that. So the most that's a very popular talk in Moscow that President Trump won't hurt Americans. So sanctioning Russian oil and gas would hurt average American. The gas price in America is going to be affected. So it's counterlogical to really sanction Russia and to really stop Russian oil from prevent Russian oil from the world market. That's what they believe. They believe in their impunity, and the last 3.5 years, and especially the last week, made them much more self-confident.
So let me ask you this, Mikhail. Given this very bleak and depressing analysis, which I'm
I'm
very
sorry.
grateful for, as upsetting as it is, because I was feeling before you and I got on this video chat, I was thinking, oh, maybe things are going to take a turn for the better. Um, how is in Russia? Are there any whispers about Vladimir Putin's health? I mean, because the only way I see, that one possibly sees out of this is if there's a regime change in Russia, which would only come right if Putin was sick or something.
I think he's quite young. He's 73 this year in
Yeah.
in 2 months. Uh, he's taking care. I
Yeah.
I I believe that his health is the number one priority for him. And
Yeah.
yes, he really. I think his diet is much healthier than President Trump's one. I think he spends much more time in spa and swimming pool and
Yeah.
with his doctor. So yeah, he tries to outlive any of his counterparts. And there is a joke in Moscow that indeed he is trying to get rid of the old generation of his old pals. So one by one, he is replacing the old guardians with the new generation. But he doesn't have any. He doesn't plan to have any replacement for himself because he found his successor, and he's going to be his own successor. He is his own new generation. So he plans to remain young and beautiful, surrounded by the new generation of autocrats. So yeah, he's not leaving us, unfortunately.
Hmm.
At least he doesn't plan.
Right. Gosh, Mikhail, anything I haven't asked you, I must say, I'm now heading into this rest of the evening feeling extremely depressed.
Yeah, I'm afraid I was. But I warned you. I said I'm going to be a bit harsh today
Yeah.
because I was not impressed, unfortunately, by uh, because yeah, it looks like a beautiful movie, and when it
Yeah.
looks like a beautiful movie, I'm becoming a bit skeptical because like we are both veterans of television. We know
Sure.
how this beautiful picture is produced, and so every time I see the picture that is really beautiful, I start believing that the picture itself, the image itself, is the goal. So I'm. We should expect this war. I'm afraid we should expect this war to continue. I'm afraid that it's not going to be over this year or next year. I wish. I'm really like. I'm not happy.
No.
I feel pain and sorrow for Ukrainian people because they are going to continue this war. They are going to continue to suffer. And I think we are going to. I don't have the answer how long Putin will be effectively pretending that he's not he's not that stubborn one who decided to continue the war. He's continued the same game, and it seems to me that he knows how to communicate. He prefers touching. He found some buttons in the soul of Donald Trump, and he continues pushing all those buttons.
On that note, God, thank you, Mikhail.
Thank you.
As always, I hope we have reason to do this again, and we'll be smiling more in the next conversation. But I fear not. I fear not.
I promise next time to pour some funniest jokes from Russian propaganda and to entertain you with that.
Okay. All right. Great to see you, and I'll talk to you very soon.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.